Lean your ear toward me, just for the next few breaths. A voice has been settling into the room you are sitting in, quieter than the news on your phone, quieter than the argument still running in the back of your head, quieter than the alarm of the morning that has not yet stopped ringing inside your chest. Not the loud answer the world keeps offering. Not the dramatic reply your situation seems to demand. Not the borrowed certainty of a louder believer. A breath. An evening breeze passing through a window you forgot was open. In this moment, before these minutes together are done, allow me to teach your interior why the hush around your prayer has not been the silence of a father who has gone away. And let me set in your hand a single line I spoke in a borrowed room the evening before everything broke. A line built to give you a kind of calm the world has never been able to manufacture. Stay near. There is no rush in the room. The peace I give does not depend on the noise you are leaving behind. I see you. Your ear has been training itself for years to hear the worst sound first, and you have stopped noticing the cost of that listening. A wife sits at the kitchen table with her second coffee gone cold, her phone face down because every notification has been bringing news she did not want. She is not invisible to me. There is a father 2 doors over from her who has not heard his own thoughts in months because the volume of his household has not let any stillness land long enough to settle. A young woman has fallen asleep with earbuds in for 7 nights running because silence has begun to sound louder than the podcasts she uses to drown it. An older one keeps the television on in the next room even while he reads because the empty house since his wife passed has been roaring in a key only widows recognize. A nurse has begun flinching at the soft buzz of her pager before she has even read it. The single mother working 2 jobs hears her own name shouted across the apartment in tones she never used before she was this tired. A grandfather has begun answering questions that no one in the room actually asked because what is rattling inside his own head has grown louder than the conversation across the table. None of those rooms is hidden from me. Your body has been bracing for the next blow for so many seasons that even still rooms have started to feel suspicious, as if calm itself were a trick the world was about to take back. That bracing has not gone unobserved on my side of heaven. I'm not impatient about how long it has taken your ear to soften. Tenderness rises in me instead. A child whose nervous system has been on duty too many years does not need a louder father. That child needs a father whose voice arrives quieter than the static, on purpose, so the strained listening can finally rest. So I am turning the volume of my word down for the next minutes. Not because the word has grown smaller, because the listener has been worn thin, and a worn listener can only receive what does not add to the noise. Breathe in slowly through your nose, then release through your mouth. Just one, to begin. Notice that the exhale comes out a little raggedly the first time. That is years of half-breaths collecting at the back of the throat. Now another, slower. Let this out-breath last a little longer than the in. Your body is not being asked to perform anything. It is being asked to remember a rhythm it knew before the alarms began. That lengthening, happening on its own without your instruction, is what the body does when it senses a presence the mind had been refusing. Recognition runs deeper than analysis. Your interior has been waiting for the room to grow still enough for it to register. Why has the answer to your prayer felt missing? Not because nothing was sent. My reply has been arriving on a frequency your ear was no longer tuned to receive. You have been waiting for the shout, the spectacle, the headline-shaped rescue, and meanwhile a steady murmur has been moving through the corners of your week. A small kindness from a passerby on a hard afternoon. A song that landed on the very line you needed. An awake hour past midnight that brought one short sentence you have not been able to forget. None of those were accidents. Each was the same voice you have been trying to hear, dressed in whatever clothes the moment required. The voice did not stop. Your listening was reshaped by years of preparing for the wrong kind of reply. Somewhere along the road of your formation, you were taught that calm was a wage you had to earn by getting all the loud things in your life quiet first. The teaching went something like this: once the diagnosis settles, the rest will arrive. Once the job comes through, the rest will arrive. Once the relationship is restored, the rest will arrive. Once the child finally calls, the rest will arrive. So you have been waiting at the window of every situation, watching for conditions to clear, sure that when they did, calm would walk in on its own. Conditions have not cleared. Calm has not walked in. Quietly, you have been concluding that the failure must be yours. That is not what I have ever offered. That has never been what I have offered. The picture of my nearness you have been carrying in your chest. A fragile thing that depends on the weather of your life. A soft hush easily broken by the next ringing phone. A calm only the lucky get to keep. Was drawn by hands that were never mine. A few of those hands meant well and were honestly forwarding the small picture of God they had inherited. Others used your dependence on circumstance to keep you striving. Because a believer convinced she has to fix her situation before resting is a believer who will work without pause. Each source delivered the same misleading sketch, and that sketch has been costing you years of closeness with the real me. Slide it face down on the side table. I will describe how my calm actually arrives and into what kind of room. What I am offering is not the stillness that comes after the storm. It is the stillness that comes inside the storm. The world's version requires circumstance to cooperate. Mine does not. The world's version is a roof that holds only on dry days. Mine is a roof that holds in the rain. The world's version is what you feel once the bills are paid, the diagnosis improves, the child returns home. Mine is what you can carry while the bills are still unpaid. The diagnosis is still uncertain, the child is still away. That is the entire difference. That is what the night I spoke this word was about. Soften your gaze and pause here for a moment. Do not fix your eyes on any one thing. Allow the soft edges of the room to come back into view, the corner you usually do not look at, the spot of light on the floor you have stopped noticing, the small empty space between two pieces of furniture. Soft attention is not lazy attention. Soft attention is what lets a presence be felt without the eye having to chase it. Your eyes have been pointed at the loud parts of your life for so long they have forgotten how to receive the gentle parts. Allow them 3 breaths of unfocused looking. A voice arriving in the room does not require eye contact. It only requires the willingness to stop grabbing at the world for a moment. I want to tell you about a night when my calm was given in the worst circumstances I had ever sat inside as a man. You may have heard pieces of it before. Let me hand you the whole evening, slowly. So the sentence I left in the middle of it will land in your hand with the weight it had when I first spoke it. Picture a borrowed room above a courtyard in a city that had grown crowded for the feast. A long, low table, the remains of bread on a cloth, a few cups not yet cleared. 12 men around me whose eyes have begun to dart toward one another because something in my voice has shifted in the last hour. They cannot name what has shifted. They only sense it. Candles on the side are burning down. A window is open to the night air. Somewhere in the street below, soldiers are already being gathered who do not yet know whose face they will arrest before sunrise. They did not know yet that I was going to be betrayed inside the next several hours. They did not know yet that one of their own would walk down the stairs to point the guards toward me. They did not know yet that the rest of them would scatter into the dark, that the loud one would deny knowing my name 3 times before the rooster found its voice, that my body would be hung on a Roman tool the next afternoon for everyone they loved to watch. They did not know any of that. They only sensed, the way a person senses a coming rain, that the night was about to take a turn none of them was ready for. I looked around the table at 12 faces about to be undone. I did not flinch from what was coming for them. I did not soften it into something easier to hear. I told them plainly that I was leaving, that the time we had walked together was about to end in a way none of them had imagined. And then, in the very center of the most frightening sentence I had spoken to them in 3 years, I left them a gift. Hear what I told them. John, chapter 14, verse 27. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. Sit beside me at that table for a moment. Do not race past the sentence. More breath lives inside it than a quick reading will release. Listen first to the verb. Leave. Not describe to you, not promise to you for the future, not give to you once your situation improves. Leave. A leaving is what a person hands over the moment before walking out the door. A leaving is final. A leaving is yours to keep after the giver has gone. What I was setting on that table was not a promise to be claimed later. It was a substance being handed across right then, in a room with breadcrumbs and lamplight, into hands that were about to face the worst night of their lives. The gift was being handed over before the trouble arrived. The gift was meant to be carried into the trouble, not awaited on the other side of it. My peace I give to you. Read the word my. Possessive, specific, not generic calm, not the rest available to anyone who manages their breath well or pays for the right retreat. Mine. The calm that lives inside the person of the Son. What had been carrying me through every confrontation with the powerful, every accusation from the religious, every quiet, sleepless hour I had spent praying alone outside the city. That. The same substance I had been wearing under every public moment of my ministry. I was unscrewing it from inside myself and handing it across the table to 12 men who were about to need it more than they had ever needed anything. The gift was not theoretical, it was tested. It had survived everything that had come at it. It was being given away whole. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Read those words slowly. Worldly calm is a wage paid for cooperation. Pay the bill, and you get the receipt, and the worry leaves. Solve the problem, and you earn the rest. Negotiate the right outcome, and the nervous system finally exhales. That kind of giving is transactional. It depends on conditions cooperating. The moment conditions shift, what the world handed you evaporates. Every calm the world has ever sold you has come with an expiration date stamped on it. You have known this in the quiet hours. You have made it through one storm only to discover the next storm was already at the door and your reserves were empty again. My giving is different. My giving does not depend on conditions cooperating. My giving arrives whole into a hand that is still holding the bills, still waiting for the test result, still missing the person who has not come back. Whatever you have been required to fix first in order to deserve rest, set that requirement down. What I am offering does not run on that fuel. It runs on my word, which I have been speaking over your life since before you knew the syllables of my name. Supply is fueled by the giver, not by the receiver's circumstances. As long as I am giving, the supply does not run out. Regardless of what the room looks like, let not your hearts be troubled. hear the verb again. Not, your hearts will not be troubled. Not, the trouble will not arrive. Let not, an invitation, not a guarantee. Trouble will arrive. That very night, the disciples were going to be terrified within 18 hours. And I was not pretending otherwise. The invitation was to refuse to let trouble run the negotiation alone. You can feel the fear in your chest and still not let it govern the next decision. You can carry a worry through the day and still not let it dictate the tone you bring to the people around your table. Let not is the small daily refusal. Trouble can be at the door. You decide whether it gets the seat at the head of the table. Neither let them be afraid. The second invitation is layered into the first. Fear is allowed to visit. Fear is not allowed to settle. It can pass through your day the way a cold wind passes through a room with an open window. The invitation is to not invite the wind to take up residence, to not give it the chair beside your bed, to not let it sleep at the foot of your interior every night. Most of you have been hosting fear like a permanent guest because nobody told you you had the authority to keep it as a brief visitor instead. You do. What I left on that table is the authority. Hand the visitor its coat. Walk it gently to the door. As I once spoke softly to a tired prophet, hiding inside a cave on the side of a mountain. I was not in the wind that split the rocks. I was not in the earthquake that shook the floor. I was not in the fire that scorched the brush. I came after, in a still, small voice. He had been waiting for the spectacle. Rescue, he had assumed, would arrive at the volume of the threat. It did not. It arrived at the opposite volume. The still, small voice was the answer. That is the voice that came back into the borrowed room the night before everything broke, and that is the voice arriving in the room where you are sitting now. Look back at the promise I made when this message began. I told you the hush around your prayer has not been the silence of a father who has gone away. Here is your answer. Because no one ever taught you, in language your body could feel, that the deepest reply heaven sends to a frightened soul does not arrive on the same frequency the alarm uses. Alarms shout. My answer comes quietly. Alarms insist on certainty by morning. My answer makes friends with the not knowing. Alarms demand a verdict you can carry in your hand. My answer hands you a substance you can carry in your chest, regardless of how the morning goes. The hush has been the answer. The soft voice has been the giving. You have been listening on the wrong band for a long time. If a single phrase here is settling into a worn place inside you, set one word in the comments. Peace. Let it serve as a quiet marker planted into the ground of a soul that finally registered a softer voice. Pinned above the video sits a small set of 7 brief letters. One greeting each of your coming mornings, dropping into your inbox the instant a quiet yes turns the latch. Take them. So here is something small to carry with you into the rhythm of the week. The next time trouble enters your room and fear begins climbing into the chair beside you, and it will, because that visitor has known your address for many seasons, pause and say one short sentence under your breath. Peace I leave with you. Speak it gently. Do not raise your volume. Do not argue with the visitor. Simply repeat the line. The line is not yours to invent. The line is one I left on a table long ago, and it still works in every room since. Add one beat to the practice when there is space for it. After speaking the line, do not march straight on. Linger inside the sentence for one slow breath. Most listeners rush past the easing because easing has been an unfamiliar climate for too many years. Stay in the climate a while. Permit your shoulders to settle into the awareness that what is being passed to you is the very steadiness the giver wore through his own most terrible evening. If it held him then, it will hold you now. A third beat, gentler than the prior two. When you notice that the trouble has actually loosened a degree or two, and it will often sooner than you expect, refuse the urge to take credit. Let a small thank you barely leave your lips, in whatever voice the room allows, one nobody else has to hear. Such a small thank you teaches your nervous system to recognize the giver the next occasion the gift arrives. Recognition matters. What I give returns more readily where it knows it will be welcomed. Your first try may pass nearly unnoticed. Your 10th might still resemble routine. A body that has been on guard for many seasons cannot release that posture in a single afternoon. By the 30th round, however, you will catch fear approaching and observe that its climb is slower than before. By round 50, you will be partway through a hard morning and recall the line from that supper before worry has occupied the entire room. By round 100, you will check your interior and find that what I gave that night has been quietly carried into rooms you did not arrange: the commute, the kitchen, the moment after the difficult phone call. The substance keeps doing what substance does. You have simply been learning to perceive it. For the one whose anxiety has been chronic enough that the medical chart now carries a diagnosis. Hear me clearly. What I am offering is not a replacement for the medicine your doctor prescribed. Chemistry I built into the human body sometimes needs a small support from outside the way. A knee sometimes needs a brace. What I am giving moves through the calm the medication creates as easily as through any other doorway. Take the pill. Pick up the gift. The two are not enemies. They have always been allowed to work in the same room. For the one whose household has been loud in ways that have nothing to do with volume, a partner who has gone silent, a teenager who slams the door, a parent whose disappointment fills the room without a single word being spoken, hear this too. What I gave in that supper can sit at the kitchen table with you, while the household stays exactly as loud as it has been. You do not have to wait for the others to soften before the gift lands in your seat. It is yours individually first. As your chair grows quieter, the others will slowly register the change. But the registering is theirs to do, and theirs to take whatever time it takes. Your seat is the only one you can settle. Settle it. The household will reorganize itself slowly around the new quiet. If your trouble is economic, bills that do not add up, a job that may not survive the quarter, an industry shifting under your feet faster than you can retrain, hear this also. I am not promising the math will fix itself by the weekend. I am promising that what I gave is available inside math that is not yet resolved. You can sit at the same kitchen table with the same stack of bills and feel a different weight in your shoulders, not because the bills shrank, but because the one who handed his own calm across his own worst night is sitting on the other side of the table with you. Pass the worry across. He has been waiting for you to set it down so he can pick it up. A word also for the one whose body has been waking before the sun, with the heart already racing before there is anything in the room to race about. Your nervous system learned that habit because, in some earlier season, the vigilance was genuinely necessary. The habit has outlasted the danger that built it. I am gentle with the habit. I am not asking you to scold the body for keeping its old promise. I am asking the body, in a softer voice than the alarm it carries, whether it would consider trusting me to do the watching for one breath, then the next. Retraining is slow. Retraining is real. I am the patient kind of teacher. For the parent praying for an adult child whose life has begun to make you sleepless, hear this as well. What I left at that supper can be carried by you on behalf of the child who has not yet learned to carry it themselves. Your prayer for them does not return empty, even when their circumstances look unchanged. What you receive in your chair is one of the channels through which the gift eventually reaches theirs. Steady your seat. The young one is being guarded by a watch that does not sleep, and your own settled chair is part of the architecture of that watch. To the one whose grief has been long enough that other people have stopped asking how it is going, hear me. What I am offering does not require your grief to end first. Grief and rest can occupy the same chest. You can weep and be held in the same hour. The two are not in competition. Many of my most loved sons and daughters across the centuries learned this exact gift precisely because grief had hollowed out enough room inside them for it to land. The hollowness was not a defeat. It was the cup that finally had space to be filled. Hear one more word for a listener currently moving through a chapter of unusual ease. Bills paid, household calm, body cooperating. Ease is its own variety of vessel, with its own variety of risk. An easy chapter can quietly persuade the soul that what I give depends on circumstance. It does not. Ease at this hour is a separate gift, and it is not the same substance as what I gave that night. Practice the line in this chapter anyway. Peace I leave with you. Practicing in the calm hour trains the muscle that must know the line in the loud hour, eventually coming for everyone. The gift itself travels. Take it with you into changing weather. Repeat the mantra one more time as a friend leaves a true sentence at the doorway on the way back out into the evening. The peace I give does not depend on the noise you are leaving behind. Carry it into the corners of your coming days the way someone carries a small lamp down a long hallway. Murmur it at the red light. Press it gently against your sternum when the news lands wrong. Speak it under your breath when the household grows loud and your own chair starts to wobble. It stays true whether or not your senses can confirm it in the moment. A gift handed at that supper does not require your verification. A substance handed by the sun does not require your supervision. Both have been mine to give, and mine to give means given for keeps. Draw one more slow breath in through the nose. Hold for a heartbeat at the crest. Send it back out through the mouth, drawing the exhale longer than the inhale. A long exhale signals to your body that no blow is incoming. It tells your ribs that the one who handed his own steadiness across his own most terrible evening has not vacated his seat. A long exhale is perhaps the smallest amen any body can offer, and it reaches heaven with the same fullness as any spoken prayer has ever carried. A pair of those breaths will return you, kindly, into the rest of the hours you stepped out of when you settled in to listen. You will be a little different walking back. Your surroundings will be the same. The gift will be the same. Only your chest returning will have grown softer, because it will at last have recognized what was being handed over all along. Amen. Should anything here have settled where the bracing has been loudest, a small set of 7 brief letters is already prepared in the pinned spot below. One greeting each of your coming mornings, delivered the instant a quiet consent lifts the gate. Take them. Forward this to someone whose ear has been straining for an answer at the wrong volume. Tap subscribe so the next word reaches your feed before the old alarm starts to talk first. What I left on that supper table was never meant to be received alone.